J-pop versus K-pop, similarities and differences. Before I proceed, let me do a disclaimer. I am not discounting the legitimacy or existence of C-pop from China or F-pop from the Philippines or T-pop from Thailand or India. It's just that in terms of maturity, Japan and Korea are the two countries that have, I don't know how to call it, strong pop music economy. So I will do a separate post for China and Thailand, Philippines, and other Asian countries. There is a very popular notion that becoming an idol in Korea is actually a lifestyle, as opposed to Japan, it's a job. And I'm going to break it down. It's partly true, and the devil is always on the details. Number one, in either countries, dating is a taboo. There's some exceptions. There are some idols in Japan. The most popular boy group that they have, Arashi, one of the members actually openly dated. In Korea, it's the same. There are some idols who are openly dating, and fans are just learning how to deal with that. It's just odd, however, that in Korea, fans are more open to female idols dating versus male Korean idols. In Japan, it's reverse. Females are actually expected to be more available than male ones. There is this whole scandal about one of the members of AKB48. AKB48 is one of the most popular groups in Japan. They have 48 members. So the name of the member is Minagami Minageshi. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So it was revealed that she was actually dating another celebrity, and so what she did was actually shave her head because she was booted out of the group. And so she shaved her head and she cried and she told everybody that she is repenting, she regretted her actions, and that she wanted another chance. In Korea, when it's the male idols that are revealed to be dating, they become more nervous. I think it has to do with how they are marketed. In Japan, female idols are supposed to be innocent and cute and available and pure. And it's actually the same in Korea, but there's a bit more fierceness now, especially when 21 came to be. Their image is that of fierceness and power and independence. And that power, that independence, included their freedom to date. A lot of management companies, both in Korea and Japan, they actually impose a dating ban. Once you debut as an artist in a group or as a solo artist, you're actually banned from dating. But for male idols in Korea, even after the ban, they are still expected to be available. It may also be credited to the fact that a lot of Korean fans are females. And so there's this illusion that they stand a chance. As opposed to Japan, the female idols are actually also marketed to men. They still keep this kawaii image, so they're supposed to be cute and available and innocent and pure. Next is their private lives. So there's this notion that when you're a Korean idol, a lot of your personal stuff about your private life is actually exposed, that is revealed. But for Japanese idols, they have the option of not revealing anything about their lives that they lived before they became an idol. That again is partly true, but I think it's more about the culture than anything else. And then the choice. There's a lot of idols in Korea that are able to keep a lot of their private lives private. GD of Big Bang, there's very, very few things about his family life that is revealed to the public. And that's because that's the choice that he made. The same thing is true with TVXQ or DBSK. For both members, there's very, very little about their private lives that is exposed. And the same thing is true with BTS. There are some members who don't mind having their parents and their family members photographed, but there are some members who are just able to keep the images or photos of their family members, their friends outside of the industry private. But I think it's largely a credit to the choice of the idol. If they choose to, then they can put it out there. And if they don't want to, then they are able to do it. And I really do think it has a lot to do with their culture. Culturally, the Koreans are just more open. I think they have been highly influenced by the Western countries. And in Western countries, there are certain information about yourself that is just open to the public. It may also be credited to how many of the groups are structured. In Japan, graduating as a concept is a very popular thing, and so a lot of groups actually have members that graduate. When they reach a certain age, they graduate. And so many of these idols in Japan actually remain nameless, sort of. So fans actually follow the group rather than the individual, as opposed to Korean boy bands and girl groups. The graduating as a concept for a group is not a very popular thing, and so fans become more attached to the individual members. When someone or something doesn't have a name, if it doesn't have a unique identity, there's really not a lot of point for the fans to get attached to that person, and so you don't really want to get to know that person. You just want to get attached to the group. That's where your loyalty is to the brand, which may also affect the next point, which is the devoted fans. It's sort of a common knowledge that there's a lot more obsessive fans in Korea than there are in Japan. And I think, again, it goes back into the identity of the members of the groups, because it's more popular for Japanese groups to keep the brand rather than the individual members. And so fans actually become devoted to the brand rather than to the individual, and so they become obsessive of the brand rather than the individual. There is also a very obvious difference on how management companies package the members in terms when they perform. In Japanese, it is more common for the groups to become characters when they form a group or when they perform. I have another post that features some of the weirdest concepts of girl groups and boy bands in Asia, and one of the concepts is actually polygamy. There are 6 female members and 1 male members, and all the 6 female members are supposed to be married to this 1 male member. And obviously, that's not who they are. They're not in real life, I think. They're not really married to this one guy. But that's just a character that they portray for that group. And then they also have a group that has members with an average age of 85, and they are all rappers. and they're female rappers that are 85 years old. And so they are seen more as a character. Fans see them as a character. As opposed to Korean idols, once they go into the stage, once they perform, they are still themselves, and they are glamorous and perfect and pure, flawless. So whatever it is that they wear, it is a fashion statement, as opposed to in Japan, whatever it is that they wear is supposed to be a costume. Whatever it is that they say, that is supposed to be a script. As opposed to Koreans, whatever it is that they say is a manifesto of who they are. Next is how management companies in these countries actually utilize the fans. In both countries, they tap their fan club, the fan base of these groups, to do stuff for the group. So for example, if there is a performance in a show or there's a concert, they would call onto the fans, come and support the group, bring your banners and whatever. Sometimes they have fan projects and stuff. But in Korea, fans are encouraged to reach out to the international market, and so the songs get translated to other languages. They help in marketing these idols or these groups into other countries. But in Japan, they exist in a vacuum. Whatever it is that they do is supposed to be geared towards the Japanese market alone. If other countries would like to go and see and support these Japanese idols, then they can go and come to Japan. But the Japanese are not going to reach out to them. The most important difference, at least in my opinion, would be the sound, and it is influenced by their way of life and their culture. In Japan, they have tried their very best to keep their own identity in its purest form, and so their music has evolved very little. If you listen to J-pop of 20-25 years ago, it sounds very, very similar to the J-pop that it is now. But Koreans are much more open. They are very open to Western influences, and so their sound has also become very Western. Those in that aspect, it is almost impossible to compare the two. They're just so different. One is very international in terms of sound, and then the other is very, very Japanese. There is also a difference in training. In Korea, before you become a member of a group, you audition and then you train, and you don't know whether or not you're going to debut, or if you are going to debut, you don't know whether you're going to be a soloist, or you're going to be a member of this group or another group, or maybe you're going to be dropped last minute. You don't know. And so while you train, you actually do not get paid, at least not while you don't get signed as an artist yet. So you incur debt because you need to pay for training, for dance lessons, singing lessons, and stuff like that. And once they sign you to the company, for example, they start housing you with other members. They are going to give you food and shelter and probably an allowance, but this is listed as a debt, which you have to pay through your earnings once you debut. That's a reverse in Japan. Once you pass the audition, you train, you already become a member of a group, and then this group gets trained until you reach a certain point where they feel that you're ready to debut as a group. In certain companies, as soon as they sign you, you start earning money, and so you don't really incur debt. So once you debut, then you earn whatever it is that you earn. However, that influences your potential to earn. In Japan, you sort of maintain a consistent earning. You go up, of course, in terms of earning once you become popular. But you have to be really, really very popular or successful for you to get to a certain level where you become a millionaire or whatever. But at the very least, it's stable. In Korea, you do incur a lot of debt. But once you become big, then man, you really become big. So it's like a job in Japan where you sort of earn consistently a certain amount, but it's like an investment in Korea. You invest on yourself and the company invests on you. And so just like a business, then maybe you're going to fail, but once you succeed, then you succeed big. There was also an impression that in Korea, idols actually get into slavery contracts. It's very popular for a lot of idols to actually get signed, artists to actually get signed to a 15-year contract exclusive, and it's ironclad. But now that we know, because of the recent controversies in the Japanese entertainment, now we know that Japanese actually, they do the same. It's just that they do it in a different way. So in my previous post about darkest secrets in Japanese entertainment, we did mention that there are very few management companies in Japan, and these management companies have some sort of a verbal agreement that if an artist decides to leave the management company, then other management companies won't take that artist in, and so they effectively lock you. There is progress in both countries. There are some artists now in Korea that are able to stand for themselves and say, I don't want that contract, I'm going to walk out of that contract, I'm going to go find myself another management company, or I'm going to manage myself. And it's the same for Japan as well. There are more and more artists that are learning to come forward and say, well, this is unfair, I'm already out of that contract, but no other company is giving me a chance, and blah, blah, blah. And so in gist, I think it's very hard to conclusively say in which country being an idol is better. I think it's just so different, and I go back to one of the major points that I already mentioned, that in terms of sound, it's just so different. That the Koreans are geared towards the international market, and they don't deny that. The Japanese are doing their very best to remain Japanese in its purest and strictest sense. I am certainly a fan of both. I've been a fan of Japanese entertainment longer than I have been a fan of Korean entertainment. And so from a fan to you, I think you should give both a chance.